Cool. With the week 4 in the NFL concluded, there's been plenty of exciting games, interesting moments, surprising moments, and some interesting storylines to talk about throughout the league and throughout the teams in the NFL. Also, some teams, with that being said, that also have some growing concerns that's really, really concerning to me. Not to say that their season is dead in the water, but it's just right now with their roster or recent injuries or whatever the reason is, it's just not really looking well, and the odds are not going to be in their favor going forward. All right, cool. So recapping all of Sunday's games, starting off with the early morning game with the Minnesota Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers won by a score of 24-21 in a one-sided game as it was. The Steelers ran the ball pretty well. They passed the ball pretty well. I believe the game took off and got out of hand for the Vikings once when DK Metcalf went off for that 80-yard catch and touchdown. So overall for the Steelers, this was a great win, and their standings for the AFC North, it's looking really, really nice because we'll talk later about Lamar and Baltimore, but they're 1-3 and Lamar's status is questionable for next week. Cleveland's 1-3. Cincinnati, what's his name? Joe Burrow's out until December. So for the AFC North, it is looking really, really nice for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for the Vikings case of it, this is a tough game to swallow as they go stay overseas next week as they play Cleveland in another foreign or overseas game. All right, cool. So moving on with the Washington and Atlanta game for Atlanta, they won this game by 34-27. This was a good game by Atlanta. It was a good back and forth game too as well. But Atlanta, for the most part, was mostly in control of it. Michael Penix had a good game. He had over 313 passing yards. Drake London had a buck 10 receiving yards, and Bijan Robinson to a 2-2 record. I believe Tampa is going to win the division. I'm not saying that Atlanta's dead in the water in only 4 weeks into the season. It's just that I think overall for Michael Penix, especially because this is only, I believe, only his 10th or 11th career game. I think the main goal and focus is growth, get chemistry, get rapport growing with your team, get with your playmakers like Bijan Robinson and Drake London, as they had good stats and numbers this game. I believe they'll be a wild card team. I think they'll be fighting for the 7th or the 6th seed. All right, for Washington's case of it, this is your second straight game without your starting quarterback. You went 1-1, however. By the reports, they're saying that Jaden Daniels is trending. Everything is looking the right direction. Everything is going the right way. That way he can be hopefully available come week 5. Cool. So moving on to the New Orleans and Buffalo game. This was a surprisingly close game for New Orleans. I think many people, including myself, actually thought that Buffalo was going to run away with this game. That was going to be a one-sided game, but for New Orleans' case, they surprisingly kept it close, but it was on the 3rd and 5, late in the game, like fourth quarter. Josh Allen was able to scramble for like a 17, 18-yard run, and it was pretty much game from there. Very next play, Josh Allen later throws a touchdown pass, and it was pretty much game from there. New Orleans, it was a good way to keep it close, but it was a good win overall for Buffalo. All right, cool. So moving on with the Detroit and Cleveland Browns game, the Lions won the game by a score of 34-10. It was a good game overall for Detroit. They ran the ball pretty well, threw the ball pretty well. It got off to a little slow start for Detroit in the first half, but in the second half, they started to turn the offense on a little bit more, and they was able to score more points off of it. They had a punt return for a touchdown, so that was helpful for the offense overall to lessen the load a little bit. And for Cleveland's case of it, it's a tough loss too. I mean, this is potentially going to be a team that's going to be picking in the top 10. I think the only really output or take of this is really just when is Cleveland going to pull Joe Flacco and finally see what they got with Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders even. All right, cool. So moving on with the Houston Texans and the Tennessee Titans. Houston won 26-0. So this was a good overall. A win is a win in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. Whether if it's a winless team or an undefeated team. For the Texans, though, case, I mean, it's a good win. Again, a win is a win, but you only scored so if first quarter 3 points, second quarter 3 points, third quarter nothing, you didn't score anything, and then your offense doesn't come on until you score 20 points in the fourth quarter. That's how you win 26-0. That's you win again. A win is a win, but it's just concerning. And for the Texans overall as an offense, when is it gonna really, really start to click? Hopefully that fourth quarter was a spark. And for the following game in week 5, I think they play the Ravens, I believe, in week 5. They should be able to come into that game, the offense ready, and hopefully be able to push the ball down the field. The defense is playing great. The defense is playing good. The defense is not the issue. It's just the offense for the team in general. It's just the offense having a consistency pace of pushing the ball down the field. All right, cool. So moving on with the New England and the Carolina game. For New England, this was a great win overall. You won big too, so this was a good win to gain some momentum going into the season. And for Carolina's case of it, this was a bad loss, another bad loss. I mean, for the first drive of the game, they scored a touchdown, great, but after that, it was just punt, 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 missed field goal, punt after punt, and they didn't score another touchdown until the end of the game where it really didn't matter. So it's getting a little worried, and just overall, outside looking in, it's just not looking pretty. The offense, the defense isn't looking great for Carolina, and this is going on a little too long now for Bryce Young. He is going into one of those years, if not entering one of those years in part of his career where it's kind of now or never. If he's really going to be that guy, it needs to be shown now because obviously they're not going to wait forever, and it's going to be a now or never season for Bryce Young. Cool. So moving on with the LA Chargers and the New York Giants game. For the Giants case of it, this was a good win. First off, I want to make clear, first of all, prayers and hope that Malik Neighbors is going to be okay. The reports are saying that he already had surgery. Hope everything is okay, and next year Malik Neighbors can go back and return to the Malik Neighbors that we all know and become the wide receiver one that we know he is, and for the Giants. All right, with that said, this was a great win for Jackson Dart as well, especially since this is his season debut, his first career game. You get a touchdown on your opening drive. You get your first win against a very good competitive team too that is expected to go have their own deep playoff run of their own. For the Chargers case of it, this was a tough loss. Justin Herbert had his moments, but also too, what also hurts you is if you're missing both Pro Bowl, potentially all pro tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Wall both going out, that's going to affect any offensive line. If you have two of those caliber players and now both of them are gone, your offensive line will definitely notice it. All right, moving on with the Philadelphia and Tampa Bay game. This was a good win overall for Philadelphia. They ran the ball pretty well. In the end, they kind of let Tampa get back into it, but this was still a good win for Philadelphia. Still able to fight off Tampa Bay. They were able to come back and the kind of make it a little close game kind of toward the end, but they were still able to fight them off and still get the win in the end. All right, moving on, we have the Rams and the Colts. This was a game that maybe some could say the Colts should have at least been able to take it to overtime if their wide receiver, I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now, but if he never pulled up Deshaun Jackson, maybe that game would have went to overtime. But the offense against a team like the Rams, a better defense than the teams than the Colts that played these past few weeks, this was a good test, especially for Daniel Jones, to see how much growth he has really made, how much progress he's really made, and they could have went to overtime. Sure, it should have went to overtime, but it's just one of those bittersweet moments that you just got to learn and grow. As much as obvious as it is, don't let go of the ball until you're in the end zone. It's just one of those rookie or first year, second year mistakes that you have to make and go through in order to really, really not let yourself get too excited into the moment, in the game. You're in the professional league. Everyone's watching you. If Daniel Jones, 40, 30, doesn't matter, Daniel Jones, Mahomes, whoever, 30-yard, 40-yard catch, and a young rookie receiver, second year receiver, all eyes are on you. Everyone's watching you. And it's normal that the excitement and the energy is flowing, but you still have to stay focused and in the moment before you can celebrate and score a touchdown. Obviously, make sure you have the ball in your hands. Then do whatever you want with it after. So moving on with the next game, we have San Francisco and Jacksonville. This was a good game for Jacksonville. The offense, everything went to flow for the first half. For the 49ers in the first half, the offense was pretty slow, had some picks, some fumbles in this game as well, fumbled in the end of the game. But for Jacksonville, going back to Jacksonville, this was a good win overall. Defense stepped up big time in this game too, especially like I mentioned, end of the game when the Niners had one more chance in the game, but former 49ers too, Eric Armstead sacked Brock Purdy, Lair caused him to fumble, and Jacksonville was able to recover and take a knee, and game was over. But for the 49ers case of it, it was a tough loss. They are 3-1, but this isn't really the most, especially the injuries. This isn't really the most dangerous 3-1 team throughout all the teams in the league, especially with their injuries at wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, and Brock Purdy is possibly going to be out for tomorrow's game against the Rams. So, and plus it's looking like they're both wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings are looking like they're probably going to be out for tomorrow's game. So it's a tough game not just a game, it's a tough moment in the season overall for the 49ers. For Jacksonville's case, this was a good game too for Jacksonville. The defense looks like it's stepping up big time. For Jacksonville, if this defense can really step up and take it to a next level, Trevor Lawrence being not this expected quarterback that he was edified as coming out of Clemson. If he can just be a competent quarterback, get the ball to playmakers like Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, this should be a team that they could challenge the Colts for the AFC South. All right, cool. So moving on with the Kansas City and Baltimore game. For Baltimore, this was a tough game. A loss is a loss, but it's more concerning and a lot more attention devoted when Lamar Jackson, your starting quarterback, leaves the game and doesn't return. By the reports, it's not a lot of reports, but by the reports that I've seen,
Lamar Jackson's status for this upcoming game against the Texans is questionable. So probably for Baltimore's case of it, you kind of want to just assume or try to game plan ahead, if just in case if Lamar is not going to be able to be available. And even if he is available, it's a hamstring injury, so he's probably not likely going to be able to run the ball himself as a runner that much. His play style too, because he's a run first quarterback. He can throw the ball, but his style of play is to run first. That's something that you really want to be careful about and want to make sure that he's fully healthy before he returns. The only thing that makes it even that much tougher for the Ravens is that they are 1-3. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-1. The Steelers looking like they're a legit real team that could be a real threat for the AFC North. So for the Ravens, you don't want that to get too far ahead of you, but you also don't want to be hasty and rush Lamar Jackson and have him play another 1-3 team. Even though, yeah, the Texans have their own little disappointments too, but you don't want to rush Lamar just to play a team that's 1-3. The Texans have some flaws, but the Ravens should, even though the defense has been pretty bad, they should be able to put a good game against the Texans, and maybe they should be able to win. But also for Baltimore, because you're 1-3, and Pittsburgh is running away with. I think Pittsburgh might run away with that division if Lamar status is questionable, and if this injury could possibly get worse, then yeah, the AFC North is for Pittsburgh. And for Kansas City's sake of it, this was a good win overall. The offense, Xavier Worthy looks good. The offense is starting to look more together, more whole. Even though they're 2-2, I don't think they're dead in the water. I don't think the Chargers are going to be running away with the West. I think they're very well still in the race for the division. With for the Chargers case of it, because they have Joe Alt now out. That's two of your and Rashawn Slater's out for the year, so you have two of your best tackles out. I believe the Chargers are probably going to have their adversity in the season, and I believe Kansas City is only going to be able to figure it out, put things more together, and maybe even still be. I mean, obviously they're in the wet. They're still in. It's only 4 games. We're going to 5 games in this season, but they could be really still there. They could still run away with the West. All right, cool. Now moving on to the final game, Sunday night game, Dallas and Green Bay. Micah's return to Dallas. For Green Bay's case of it, it was a game that they should have won. Honestly, they should have lost, just based on how the clock management, how managed the clock. I mean, I don't know how you really let that happen. That's rookie mistake right there. I don't want to really pick on Jordan Love too much, but that's something. Come on, bro. What are you doing? You have no timeouts. The clock is ticking. Snap the ball, bro. What are we doing? For Green Bay's defense too, I mean, they allow 40 points on a team that doesn't even have their best wide receiver or their number one wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb didn't even play in this game. George Pickens, he's still talented himself. He had a great game too, but they, if you're Green Bay, you let a opposing team that doesn't even have their number one wide receiver put up 40 on you, and you are a team that has a player like Micah Parsons, Quay Walker, Xavier McKinney. These are playmaker defensive players. The defense overall hasn't been lights out as I don't think not just me, but most people have thought they wouldn't have been. I'm not saying that this defense is going to be like the Legion of Boom or something like that, but I just thought this defense would be like a top 10 defense. Yeah, top 10 defense throughout most of the season. Obviously, them giving a 40 game, that's not going to land you nowhere near the top 10. For Dallas' case of it, this was even though it's a tie, I think it's still a win some way because, including myself, I thought they were going to get blown out. I thought when Green Bay started the game, opening drive, touchdown, I thought that was going to be it. I thought Jordan Love was going to do his thing, Micah's going to do his thing, and it's going to be pretty much over maybe by halftime. But no, this was a great game by Dallas. Again, even though it was ended up in a tie, I think this was a good win overall. You were able to put up 40 without CD. George Pickens had himself a great game. Dak had himself a good game. They could have won. They were lucky too because Jordan Lowe was able to snap the ball and have 1 second or 2 seconds left on the clock, and Green Bay was able to tie the game in overtime. But overall, I think this was a win just because they didn't get blown out, and I think this is going to be surprisingly a team that could be fighting for that seventh seed in the wild card.